whether you're on your way to work, coming from work, or maybe you're still quarantining, but you're tuning into another episode of From the Vault. I am your host, the man with the truth, the mouth of the East, Keith Montgomery, and just like any other episode, I have a jam-packed session for y'all today. Will Clowney regret his decision? Who is really the best wide receiver in the NFL? And we have a super fight. I'll be going over that all today. Let's start off with Jadeveon Clowney. It was reported yesterday that Jadeveon Clowney had turned down his biggest offer up to date from the Cleveland Browns. Now, before I go any further, I have went on record. You can check my Twitter, my Facebook, my Instagram. I went on record way before this report came out that the Cleveland Browns was his best fit far as personnel and far as finances. You paired Jadeveon Clowney over there with Myles Garrett, and you got Sheldon Richardson. Then you still got Olivier Vernon, and that secondary who is up and coming. I believe it would have been good. Now, obviously, Jadeveon Clowney has already said he wants to win. He wants to go to a contender. On paper, the Browns are a contender. They just got to get out there and perform. Will he regret turning them down? I don't know yet. It all depends on where he goes from here. It all depends on who he signs with before I can honestly say, he'll regret that later. Financially, I definitely believe he will regret this later. But far as winning, that remains to be seen. We, have to see what happens. I'm going to get into who Clowney is as the player. Clowney is a great number two. Great number two. He's an okay number one. If you are a team and you're looking for Clowney to be your main vocal point for pass rushing, to get into the quarterback, I'm telling you, you're looking at the wrong player. Clowney best works comes when he's the co-star, the co-pass rusher. He does his best work as the number two. When he was with J.J. Watt, they were the best years of his season. He had, I think, 9 sacks both years with J.J. healthy. Like I said, last year with the Seattle Seahawks, you could arguably say, far as, big name wise, far as pass rushing, he probably was their number one guy. Well, guess what? Clowney last year, he had 3 sacks, 4 forced fumbles. As my main pass rusher, in no way, at least to me, that's good. In no way is that good, at least for me. Clowney in his career, he has yet to give us a double-digit sack year. If you are the main pass rusher, I feel like you should be able to give us 10 or more sacks at least three times in a season. At least. He has yet to do it one time. The most sacks he's gotten in his career was 9.5 sacks. And if I'm not mistaken, that may have been 3 to 4 years ago. Jadeveon Clowney, when free agency started, he went right out and set his asking price, which was, I believe, somewhere between 16 and 17 million a year. I knew he wasn't going to get that. That's laughable. And once he realized no team was willing to give him that, now another report comes, and now he wants to go to a contender. He's going to take the pay cut, yada, yada, yada. Just like Cam Newton, he had to eat a piece of humble pie because he realized nobody was going to pay him the money he wanted. What I'm going to do now, I've come up with 4 teams I feel like are the best fit for Clowney. Now, and on my list, I took a few things in consideration. 1, I took, are they a playoff team? And 2, do they realistically have enough finances to actually make a real legit offer to him? And then I have one team that recently, a report that just came out that they have shown interest. So I haven't even put them in order. But I will tell you that team after this. Now, as I name these teams, I have put them in order to the best fit to, I wouldn't say the worst fit because it's a playoff team, but you get what you know where I'm heading with this. The first team on my list, I have the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the San Francisco 49ers in no way, shape, or form do they need Jadeveon Clowney. Could they use Jadeveon Clowney? Of course. You pay him up. You got Nick Bosa, Armstead, D Ford, and you got one of the best pass rushers in the recent draft. So you pair him up with Nick Bosa. That is a good rotation. That is I didn't even get to that linebackers. That is the strength of that defense, and you wouldn't be doing nothing but adding Jadeveon Clowney to that. And honestly, when he joins the team, I don't even know if he would be the second best pass rusher. He honestly may be the third best pass rusher. I believe Nick Bosa's that best, and I'm gonna have to go with D Ford to be the second, and it'd be a battle between Clowney and Armstead for the third. So I believe that's his best fit. And the 49ers financially, they have enough money to offer him a good 1-year deal. They do. So that's a realistic shot. Do I actually think the 49ers will even look at him? No, I don't think they'll look at him. But that'd be the first team I'm calling off of my services. The second team on my list, I have the Indianapolis Colts. Financially, the Indianapolis Colts could honestly offer him a long-term deal if they wanted to. You pay him up with Justin Houston. Justin Houston had 11 sacks last year. 11 sacks. They could use a number 2 pass rusher. You pair them two up, you got that linebacking core, and that secondary who is feisty and young, and they are also up and coming. The third team on my list, I have the Buffalo Bills. Now, out of all the teams I named, I believe 2 teams on my list are legit Super Bowl contenders for this year, and that is the Buffalo Bills and them San Francisco 49ers. You can laugh if you want. The Buffalo Bills, I believe Josh Allen to take his next step. And then if they could, that defense, what that defense did last year, that defense arguably was what? Arguably, you could argue they could be the top 2 defense, but they're top 5 at worst. Top 3, it can be argued. You pair him up with Jordan Phillips. Jordan Phillips last year had 9 sacks. Now, that's not bad at all. And see, the one thing about the Buffalo Bills that I like, they have a lot of what I like to call pass rushing role plays, if that makes any sense. As in, they have people that's on that bench that can come in and they could give you about 3 to 4 sacks in a season. And to me, that is good for a D lineman who does not start. That is good. I mean, you have starters, Jadeveon Clowney being one, for example, who just gives you 3 sacks. So if I'm coming off the bench and giving 4 or 3 sacks myself, that's good enough. That, in my mind, that's telling me they could give me more if they did start. But the Buffalo Bills, they will have a good rotation if they wanted to sign Jadeveon Clowney. Now, financially, they have enough. I believe they will offer him a 1 to 2 year deal at max. The last team on my list is the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles, as of recently, they're known to have a rotation in D-line. This move, if it ever was to come out that, the Eagles signed Jadeveon Clowney, it wouldn't shock me at all. This is right up their alley. Brandon Graham, he had, if I'm not mistaken, he had about 8 to 9 sacks. And then over the free agency, they went and stole our guy, Steeler Nation. They took Hargrave from us, made him highest paid nose tackle in the NFL. Hargrave was good. He wasn't even a starter. He got most of his shine from when Tua got injured, and then he stepped in and filled in very nicely. So they have 2 pass rushers as of now, but the Philadelphia Eagles know they needed pass rushers. They needed to get that D-line together. So Jadeveon Clowney with them, I believe that'll put him right back in rare form. I definitely do. I believe it will. And like I said, that is an Eagle move. And the last team, as of recently, comes out and said they're interested in him, and that would be the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints, you paired Jadeveon Clowney with Cameron Jordan. That is a good move. That's good. Good for business, if you ask me. But obviously, with the New Orleans Saints, he definitely wouldn't get nowhere close to what he wants, as far as financial status. Obviously, they're going to have to sign him to a 1-year deal. And if I had to assume, I can see a 1-year, $8 million deal, 1 year, $7 million deal for him. But he wants to win. Now, how bad does he want to win? We're going to find out depending on the team he signs with and for how much. We're definitely going to find out how bad does he want to win. The New Orleans Saints, I believe he'll take the pay cut. Well, I can't even say a pay cut, but he definitely will take a cut in the pay that he desires going to the Saints. But if he feels like that's his best opportunity to go to the Super Bowl, I believe he'll take it. Then, like I said, I believe these teams are probably the best fit for Jadeveon Clowney. Outside of them 4 teams I just named, I really don't see no other contenders that financially can really legit afford him, and teams that I honestly feel like they probably don't even need another pass rusher. At one point, it was reports that the Ravens, they would be one of the teams that's going to bid for him, but they balked up that D-line. So I think, that just took him out of the picture. Way cheaper too, by the way. Jadeveon Clowney, we will definitely find out in the coming weeks where he goes. I believe he will be signed before the start of preseason. So, I don't know what he's waiting for. I honestly don't. I feel like if a team did not offer you or reached out to you by now, I personally feel like they're not going to, unless a contender just try their hand and offer you a slap in the face deal, a disrespectful deal. But like the New Orleans Saints, other contenders could come out the cut and say, we're interested in him, we're going to kick the tires on him. But trust and believe, wherever Clowney goes, trust. He's gonna have a number 1 pass rusher right across from him. I'm telling you, he's not gonna sign to a team that is looking for him to be the main guy. If he does, it's not a contending team.
Did you know?
Hey man, did you know the NFL extends EA through the 2026 year? So basically, y'all, Madden isn't going anywhere. And the NBA, just in the NBA now has a date for its return. The date is set for July 31st. I said that correctly, July 31st. Okay, now let's get into who is really the best wide receiver in the NFL. This is honestly today one of my favorite topics. Most recently, there have been reports, opinions, rankings, all of the above about who is the best wide receiver in the NFL. This all really stemmed from Michael Thomas. Per usual, Michael Thomas on social media, basically giving himself the crown. Then you have DeAndre Hopkins. But for me, it doesn't come as a surprise because this is what Hopkins has always said and has always done every time he was asked a question. He feels like he is the best wide receiver in the NFL, and rightfully so. As a competitor, you're supposed to feel like you're the best. Sometimes it's not true, and sometimes it is. But right now, I've came up with my own list of my personal top 5 wide receivers. What I took in consideration, a lot of things. I took in consideration the consistency at the level they have done it. For some, I've taken obviously their playoff performance, and then I've also taken in the availability. So to cap off my list at number 5, I have Keenan Allen, the 3-time Pro Bowler. He was 3rd in receptions and 6th in yards last year. For the last 3 years, he's played all 16 of his games. And for what it's worth, Keenan Allen has only been in the playoffs twice. And each time, he's performed over 100 yards. Each time had at least 1 touchdown or more. So the moment is not too big for him. Keenan Allen, to me, is very, very underrated as a top wide receiver in this league. You have some that's woke, and then you still have others who really just, step over him, who really don't even name him in top 5. Most people put him in the top 10, but I have him in the top 5. Keenan Allen is a great route runner. In today's league, you ask me, you don't have many great route runners. I mean, he could stop on a dime. Keenan Allen, he lacks speed because he doesn't have that breakout speed, but he gets separation in his route run. His route run is one of his major key components to his game. He can play in the slot. He can play outside. He can play wherever he is asked. I feel like sometimes we don't give him the acknowledgement he deserves because he plays for the Chargers. I feel if he wants to win, I feel like he's proven that he's a top wide receiver in this league. In my eyes, he need to go somewhere where he gives his best chance at winning. If you ask me, just my take on that. But Keenan Allen is my number 5. At number 4 is Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas is 4th on my list, the 3-time Pro Bowler, the 2 times first team All-Pro, the NFL Offensive Player of the Year last year. He was he was first in receptions and first in yards last year and 4th in touchdowns. Michael Thomas has been in the playoffs 5 times. He did good in every game except for one game where I think he had like 39 yards that game. Michael Thomas, for me, he's 4th on my list, so obviously I don't believe he's the best wide receiver in the NFL. Michael Thomas this is an interesting fact that I don't think many people know. He's only been in the top 5 wide receivers one time in his career. And that was last year, this great year he's had. And one more thing that I'm going to say that I feel like you just cannot overlook. And it's the targets, obviously, he gets a game and in a season. You just can't overlook that. If you're a great wide receiver, if you get as many targets as Michael Thomas does in a game and a season, yes, your numbers should be high. I expect them to be high in every category. If you're a great wide receiver, Michael Thomas route running is second to none. To me, he lacks the speed, obviously, but just like most wide receivers that lacks the speed, they make up for that in their route running with the separation. His catch radius is out. I want to say, honestly, his catch radius may be the best in the NFL. Michael Thomas, he doesn't drop many balls. I have seen him drop balls, but that ain't something that I feel is a weakness of his. Michael Thomas, to me, he needs to be a little more humble. You got to lead that pack of wide receivers a little more than 1 year for me before I can give you that crown. He's talking himself he's trying to talk himself into greatness. Now, like I said, Michael Thomas is a good wide receiver. He is good, but his body of work is second to none. Obviously, he puts up the numbers. But if you're considering yourself to be the best that this league has to offer, I got to see this more. I got to see this year in, year out. I can't, you can't lead wide receivers 1 year and then, you fall all the way down to 8th or something next year or wherever you are at. It's a lot of receivers that does that. I mean, for example, T.Y. Hilton led receivers 1 year and then never seen top 5 again. I'm just saying, anybody, I don't care what nobody say, any wide receiver, I won't say any, but anybody can be the number 1 guy for 1 year. But what separates the great ones is the ones that do a year in and year out. And I have Michael Thomas as my 4th man on my list. Number 3 for me is DeAndre Hopkins. 4-time All-Pro. 3-time first team All-Pro. I'm sorry, that was 4 times Pro Bowler. Sorry about that. To me, DeAndre Hopkins may have the best hands on my list. If he doesn't have the best, he's definitely second. Route running, physical. DeAndre Hopkins definitely has speed. DeAndre Hopkins is consistent no matter what quarterback he plays for. He had 4 different quarterbacks before Deshaun Watson even got in Houston. Now he's paired up with Kyler Murray. So Kyler Murray will be the 6th quarterback he's played for. He was 11th last year in yards, 3rd in receptions. DeAndre Hopkins played in 6 playoff games. And out of the 6 playoff games he's played in, he did good in only 2 performances. And he did okay for the rest of them. He didn't do bad, but he didn't do, in my eyes, a top wide receiver stats. DeAndre Hopkins, earlier this week, he went on to say, you would know what my numbers would be with Matt Ryan all year or Drew Brees, which is very true. But you can't knock a Julio or a Michael Thomas for having a good quarterback. You can't knock them. The only people you need to be mad at is your franchise. You can't knock them for that. That's a franchise thing. It's not the franchise. It's not their fault that their franchise has a franchise quarterback. I'm just saying, you cannot knock a wide receiver for having a good quarterback. And that's what it comes down to, if you ask me. But even with Deshaun as his quarterback, DeAndre, and this is crazy though, but DeAndre Hopkins has never led the league in yards. As far as a wide receiver standpoint, he's never led the league in yards. I think he's led them in touchdowns at one point, but he's never led them in yards. So look at his numbers with Deshaun. It wasn't like they was out of this world per se. They were still good. I mean, I believe he did career numbers, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe that's when he came second in yards. And don't quote me, I don't have that written down right now, but I don't know what year that was. But the point I'm making is, they gave you a good quarterback, and you did what you normally do. You put up career numbers, but this will be a good year for him and Kyler. I definitely believe it. I believe them two will make history. And like I said, DeAndre Hopkins, he can play. He's another one, can play in the slot, can play outside the numbers. He can block. DeAndre Hopkins is a good wide receiver. Make no mistake about it. But I just didn't agree with the fact that, to me, it just came off that he was trying to knock wide receivers for having a good quarterback, when in reality, the only people you should be mad at for your quarterback performances is your franchise. Be mad at Bill O'Brien. But you're out of there now, and now you have a franchise quarterback in Kyler Murray. DeAndre Hopkins is number 3 on my list. Number 2 on my list probably doesn't come to surprise anyone. It's Julio Jones. 7 times All-Pro. 2 times first-team All-Pro. Let me tell you, and this is an interesting fact. Since 2014, Julio hasn't had nothing below 1,300 yards. Think about that. Since 2014. Julio Jones, his weakness when it comes to mind is his hands. Too many times I've seen Julio drop crucial balls, and I mean sometimes he would be wide open. I'm just saying, for a wide receiver of Julio's stature, these balls I've seen him drop, it's devastating. Julio Jones, to me, is a freak of nature. He has the size. He is big, strong, fast. Catch radius is out of this world. Julio Jones is another wide receiver. When it comes to the top 3 wide receivers, as far as the numbers, there's only one consistent in that list, and that's Julio Jones. He is always there. He is always in that top 3. It's like every year you're going to say Julio, and then we don't know who the other 2 would be because they always swap out. But Julio Jones is the one consistent wide receiver who is always in the top 3 in yards. And some wide receivers, it's like we can assume that they would do this with anyone. Julio Jones is that type of guy. I truly believe he would have did this with anyone. If you give him the ball, he's going to perform regardless. Julio Jones, he's been in 8 playoff performances. And guess what? Out of the 8 playoff games he's played in, he performed in all of them. Look it up. But the one playoff game that comes to mind that I just cannot get out of my mind when it comes to Julio is the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl. The Falcons were supposed to go back. If you remember, Julio Jones, I can't even say he dropped it, but he missed the game-winning catch, the touchdown catch. Go back and look at that game. It went right through his hands. I'm sorry, you have to catch that, Julio. Wasn't nobody in your way. It literally went through his hands. You cannot let something like, if you're that guy as big and strong as you are, I'm sorry, you have to make eye contact with that ball. You got to catch that, man. And he had a good game in that game against the Eagles. Julio Jones can play in the slot, but you preferably want him on the outside. I believe what he ran, a 4.3 with a broken, I believe it was either a broken ankle or a broken foot. And he still ran a 4.3. Like I said, Julio Jones is a freak of nature. And like I said, he would have done this with any quarterback on any team. So he's number 2 on my list. Number 1 on my list, for those that know me, they probably know where I was going with this, but it is still Antonio Brown. How quickly do we forget? The best wide receiver in the NFL is in Miami, Florida, waiting. The question is, who is the best wide receiver in the NFL? Antonio Brown is technically still in the NFL. He's a free agent. Let's not forget this. He can be signed by anyone, regardless of, we understand what's going on around Antonio Brown, but he is still in the NFL, people. The question is, who's the best wide receiver in the NFL? It doesn't say who's the best wide receiver playing. It say who's the best wide receiver in the NFL. It is still Antonio Brown. And I'm going to tell you right now why. Antonio Brown, seven-time Pro Bowler, 4 times All-Pro. Antonio Brown, he's played in 10 he's made 10 playoff appearances. Now, I want to give y'all a heads up that the first 3 playoff appearances he was in was his rookie year. And if you know anything about the Steelers, Antonio Brown wasn't really seeing playing time as a receiver. He was mostly on special teams his rookie year. So, that kind of takes away from it. But he didn't do good in neither of the 3. But like I said, he did not start. Outside of that, AB performed every playoff game. To me, Antonio Brown is the perfect wide receiver, every shape and form. Personally, he is my favorite wide receiver of all time. Now, you can say I'm a little biased, but the numbers support everything that I am ready to say. The numbers, his performances, they just prove everything I'm saying. I'm going to tell you why I believe he's the best wide receiver. The perfect wide receiver. I don't say Jerry Rice is the perfect wide receiver because Jerry didn't have the speed. I don't say Randy Moss is the perfect wide receiver because Randy Moss took games off. I don't say T.O. is the perfect wide receiver because he dropped balls. You get where I'm going with this? I don't say Megatron's the best wide receiver because of longevity. So, for my listeners out there, you get where I'm going with this? Everything I named about each of them wide receivers, Antonio Brown has. He can play the slot. He can play outside, route running, catches the ball. He is clutch. He has that clutch gene. He's a competitor. He's a competitor second to none, and I feel like his antics on the field, the throwing the Gatorade container and everything. I feel like us as fans and people who analyze the game, we tend to look down on that more than it should have been because that is a part of football, man. It's a part of the game. This goes back all the way to Little League, man. I'm telling you, if you play football for any organized team, I promise you, you've seen these antics before on that sideline. It's just competitive nature. You get what I'm saying? And I feel like once players hit the NFL, we act like, you're too good for that. You need to be a better role model. But we tend to forget this is really a part of the game. Just because these guys do this on TV and get paid for it does not mean football is not football anymore. This thing happens no matter where you go. It happens in Little League, it happens in high school, it happens in college, and it still happens in the pros. You get what I'm saying? The only thing different with the pros and everything else is you got the media and you're getting big time money. And you're on TV. Well, I can't even say that because sometimes, college and high school sports are on TV now. And that was getting to a point where the Little League is getting on TV. So, like I said, the only thing different with the NFL is you're getting big time money and you have media around you. So, this is what I'm saying. Antonio Brown is still the best wide receiver in the league. And it's not even close. Antonio Brown, when he was in the league, he consistently led the pack. Consistently. And it wasn't even close. Antonio Brown, he will do this with any quarterback. You've seen it. I can see if Antonio Brown was gone for like 3 years or something, but let's not forget. He was just playing last year. He was there for many, he practices. We know who Antonio Brown, he's a workout warrior. This is what I mean when I say the perfect wide receiver. He's going up on anybody. He's going to catch the ball. When he's on that field, I know I'm going to get everything out of him. I don't have to worry about, is he here today? You get what I'm saying? No matter what you want to say about him, he was there available for the Steelers every game, no matter his antics. Yeah, guess what? You can say he didn't play the last game of the year, but let's not forget, he came ready to play. It was Mike Tomlin's decision to sit him out. So don't say Antonio Brown, he quit on his team. He came to play. I'm just saying. Stop that lie that we spread about that man. Antonio Brown, his influence at the wide receiver position, we haven't seen nothing like this since Jerry Rice, people. Now, out of the receivers I named below him, none have even came close to the impact he's had yet. Like, think about this. This man was really an MVP conversation. And this is the thing. It wasn't like he was third or fourth on the list like a Michael Thomas. It literally was him and Tom Brady that MVP year. And Antonio Brown, he got injured, and missed the last couple games of the season. So, some feel if Jerry Rice didn't win MVP, then no receiver will win it. But that's not true. That's not true. Do I believe he would have won that year? I'm going to honestly say no, because it's a quarterback award if you ask me. Only way you get it outside the quarterback, you got to be a running back and you got to break records, But I'm just saying, it was literally him and Tom Brady. Antonio Brown, that's another thing I take in consideration is his health. I think he's had one serious injury where he had to miss time, and that was the year he was in MVP conversation. And let's not forget, when the game he came back against the Jacksonville Jaguars in the playoff game, good gosh almighty, he tore the fur off of Jalen Ramsey and AJ Boye. They couldn't do nothing with him. You couldn't even tell he was injured. The injury he had sustained, if you go back, they kind of said he returned quicker than he was supposed to. I'm just saying, man, this man, it's no way that you look at him and you look at everybody else at receiver, and it's no way to me that you can say he's not the best wide receiver. To me, the only knock on him that people will try to make an argument to say he's not the best wide receiver is his size. But like I said, Julio's big, but Julio damn sure don't got better hands than him. Michael Thomas size. Michael Thomas ain't faster than him. You know what I mean? The only knock on him is his size. And like I said, he plays big. If you took his height out of it, you would think he's about 6 foot something the way he plays. That's my guy. Now I could be biased, but it is what it is. This is my list. I'm pretty sure that who's ever listening and what I said about my wide receiver rankings, I probably had some guys like, hey, you right. I'm pretty sure I made some people see it my point of view, or I at least had you saying, I ain't think about that, or, I see what you're saying. But these are my top 5 wide receivers. Let me know what yours is in the comments and below. And for the last topic of today, ladies and gentlemen, most recently, Conor McGregor has accepted the challenge from Anderson Silva. But Dana White basically shut that down. He and I quote, he said, "It's not a fight I'm interested in right now." Dana White, in a recent interview, he has said the UFC is booked up all the way until July 18th. He doesn't know what he's going to do with Conor right now. But as I look up the matchup between Conor and Anderson Silva, I don't think it will be as good as the names say. I think Conor McGregor got to knock Anderson Silva out. Anderson Silva has no business being in the ring anymore. I feel like Anderson Silva's looking for a payday. That fight right there would be a payday, but I don't think it'd be good as fans would anticipate. I would like to thank everyone who took their Saturday morning to give me an ear. And like I said, once again, this is the first successful week of From the Vault. And I appreciate everyone who listened. Let me know what you think of the show. And we will be here next week, same time, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. Thank you, and y'all enjoy the rest of your weekend.